I'll zoom out real quick. This is where we're at on our timeline. And then I'm going to zoom back into October. We got a lot going on in the build out development track. So if you remember right, this is development, discovery, UAT. I think I'll be able to get back into cycle 2 of training program after our next. So that'd be probably next week after our next. Well, I guess it'll be the week after. So I probably won't make October because I'm losing October here pretty quick. So it'll probably be the first week of November for that. But we'll get back into that to see the updates from that. There's also a couple other things that we'll be able to UAT soon. I'm gonna let me pull into here real quick. So Olivia is working in this area up here. We got kind of a breakdown of 3 areas. And Olivia's going to, I believe Olivia, you're going to do assessment stuff today in this meeting.
That's correct.
Okay, thanks. So she's working heavily in assessments area, applications pre-screening, those kinds of things. Those are all big hunks of our customer flow. And then we have what we want to say public facing web pages that kind of get folks into help. Those we have a UX designer that has been engaged with us for the last couple of days. She'll continue to give us those, and probably, maybe 3 weeks, you'll see some of that. But that's the landing page. And then we're doing the job seeker, and we'll get to the employer and the welcome page for training. So this is an EBS here just to remind us that that's going to be connected to the EBS work that's being going on to also EBS updates. So this is all public facing stuff that we're going to integrate into the 2.0 kind of a funnel. I pulled in exits and outcome, business logic up. We've had one meeting on that. We're going to have probably a couple more, at least one more, maybe 2 more before I write those requirements up. We have 2 requirement sets that are in review that are just about done. And then those will go into story build out and development. So that's what's going on in October right now. And then we got a lot of stuff going on in November. So we want it October and November, like we said, for us in requirements discovery are huge. We'll have some stuff going to November, December. Some of these will pull into December also. These are not as much heavy discovery as writing up requirements, gathering some details on those integrations, and getting those through. So that won't be as bad. These won't be as heavy either. So any of the fallout that comes from October, November, we'll be able to cover, even though we know December is kind of light for people. Some people take a lot of time off in December. We want this thing to wind down, of course, from a requirements perspective, uh, probably by February, March timeframe, so that we can get all this stuff built. We'll start putting together our plan soon, at the end of the year, first of the year, on exactly how we're going through our data migration, our and validation of data, our training plan and train the trainer and all that, and then our final UAT. So we're having UAT, of course, and you'll see more and more of that UAT soon as we go along, but then we're going to have an end-to-end final UAT also. So that's where we're at. Pretty good shape. We'd like to be a little bit better shape, but we're pretty good shape. We're not missing our July date, so that's our plan. Okay. All right, let me stop here and I'll turn it over. I think Lynette's taking over here.
Good morning, everyone. Be able to see my screen, I believe. And we're going to be going over logging in today. So in UAT, we've implemented the login for test users, and we're going to walk through it together. And if not, if you want to do it a different time, if you could just test it this week and see that you can get in, that'd be appreciated. Most of this call is not a state employee and will not have Illinois.gov email address. So I'll walk through that process and we'll do it together. So we're going to be integrating with a product called Okta that provides the account security, and it's available to anybody. It does use a password and then a secondary authentication method. And I'll show you how it all works, and we can try it together. So I have our login UAT guide with our normal stuff. So reach out to me or Kelly if you have any issues with that normal UAT text, and then how to get access. So first step is, do you already have an Okta account? For most folks, it's going to be no. So we're going to follow the steps to go to our UAT site, click on the sign up to create a username and password, and then we're going to fill in some information and set up our secondary authentication method. After that, we're going to see, and I'm scrolling through the document really fast here, sorry, because I think it'll be more beneficial for us to walk through it together. You'll see a screen with gray boxes where we're going to have to enter and request an account. This part is still in development, so you'll see, just kind of like the bones there, but not real words. And then we'll hit register, and you'll see a confirmation screen. I'll be able to see those as we do it live together to see how far along you get, and be able to approve access and make sure we can get all the way in. But just getting to this welcome where we've submitted your registration. That's as far as we needed to get for today. So pretty easy UAT. I'm going to walk through it with you. And I'm going to put our UAT link in the chat. So we can get to the site, and you can do it along with me. So when you go to our UAT site, you'll see today that there is a blank screen. You see the IWDS UAT on the left, and then this welcome on the right. We're going to click on the little arrow on the right, and then click sign in. That should take us to our iLogin page. And then since you don't have an account, we're going to come down here and click on the sign up. We're going to enter our email. And I recommend that this is the work email that you use. As we look to have folks in the system, and as you're looking to bring your other folks from we as in it's going to have their name that they put in the Okta is going to have to match the one that we give rights to in the system. So recommendation is that you use like your LB email address or the organization that you're with. First name, last name. Middle name, honorary is optional. Things that are not optional is your country, state, and city. I'm in Peoria. And then it asks you to create a password. Yes, have uppercase, lowercase, number, and a symbol. You can't use your first name, last name, or any parts of your username. You're gonna click on the sign up. And did I miss something? Oh, it already exists. Okay. So when we click on sign up, I'm gonna try signing in here and we're gonna do it together. The second you're gonna get to a screen where it asks you to do your authentication method. And your authentication method, your secondary authentication method, is going to be, there's a bunch of options listed there. And we recommend that you use the phone, for now. Let me see if I have a screenshot of that. I don't think I do. I don't. And when you get your phone, you're going to get a code that gets texted to your phone. And then it's going to ask you to come back. And then you're going to see the authentication screen again. And then you can go down to skip. Is anybody doing this live with me?
I am.
Okay, cool. Did you get where you got the authentication method?
Almost trying to get my password.
Okay. I got Nicole. She's in. Awesome. Ooh, getting folks that are in. Cool. When you're at the gray boxes, I'm gonna give just another minute here. I'm getting a lot of folks saying that they're in, so that's cool.
With mine, Lynette, we actually use Okta for a lot of our county stuff and like HR related stuff. So
Sure.
it didn't. So I'm kind of familiar with how Okta works, but it's interesting. This one, which is fine. It sent me. Here it is. Okay, it just came. It didn't give me the option to choose how I want my authentication code, like via phone, text, or anything. It automatically sent it to my email. I'm sorry, did you say that for the first time that's normal?
Yeah, it can send it to your email.
Okay, and then after that, it'll. Do you want us? You recommend suggesting phone, or will it just?
Yeah, if you already use Okta Verify, whatever way that you get it normally is fine. I was assuming that most folks didn't.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, if you get your code via your email, that's cool. If you want to use your phone, that's cool. That's also awesome. If you have like Google Authenticator or the Okta Authenticator, downloaded and you want to use those, you can use that too. And phone's just the easiest when you're setting it up.
Okay, here it is. So yeah, once I responded to the email to authenticate, now it's giving me the option if I want to do Okta or verify with a code sent to your phone or something like that, or a security question. So, okay, so we can pick any of those options. Great.
Pick any of those options. Phone's easiest to me.
Yeah.
And I guess as we move forward, and you're thinking about your OEs, like how we implement that to a broader audience. If there's some folks that just won't use their phone, that's cool too. We can use those methods if we need to craft something for your IT departments. I'm all about that as well.
Okay, because I think you can change it at some point, I think.
Yep.
What happened if somebody doesn't want to use their personal cell phone to doing this? Which I had that experience.
Okay,
You
I
can do a
believe we
security
can
question,
download.
too.
You can get a security question. I think we can download one of the authenticators. I think we can download to computers. I will follow up on that.
Thank you.
So once you're in, you should see welcome in these gray boxes. Where it says your work location, start typing in your LWIA number and you should see your LWIA populated. It may not be populated all the way, but we're still working on this screen. If you so if you start hitting like 7 or 1 or 3, it should populate with your location. And then click on that I agree to the share data agreement and hit the register button.
Sorry, what did you say about work location? Do it.
Like start typing your LWIA number and you should see your LWIA populated.
Oh, okay. That's I couldn't remember if it was a WIA number or the location that I put in when we register, like the city.
Work location is like your LWIA. It's gonna probably say LWIA moving forward. We're still in progress on what the screen is really gonna look like.
Got it. Oh, there it is. Yep. I just typed in L and it automatically gave me a drop box of the different LWIA numbers. So
Yep.
great. And then agree to the terms or okay.
Yep. And hit register. I see Lindsay and Toriana and
Thank you.
Patty's in here. And I'm starting to see more of you pop in. Awesome. And I'm granting you.
All right. Yep. Since you've submitted your registration, once admin approves the request will be granted access. So thank you.
And then I'm admin. So yeah, Omar, the agreement is in Latin. We're working on the real language. That's why we're still in test here. And then you can click back on the home link and then you should see blue boxes like this. All those who are working with me. So that's how you get logged in. And now you have access to the system again and log in. So you won't have to go in and put in your, name and all that stuff again. Next time when you come in and hit the sign on, you should be taken to username and password link, and you can just put the username and password that you used. And then you should be brought to the home screen, or if we're still pending the registrations, you will see that, hang on, we're pending your registration still. I've not received any new requests, so and I've approved everything that I have. Oh, I have Omar. Here we go. One more.
Is this a different site you want us to go into? I'm sorry, because when I saw
No,
the
it's the
Illinois
same.
partner, I'm like, I know I have access to that.
Yes, the difference, it's the same one you've used in our other UATs. The only difference now is that you have to log in to get to it.
Oh boy. I didn't follow that part because I knew I had it. Okay. Ay, ay, ay.
Yeah, we
Save
just
it.
added that, Robert. We just added connection to, now right now everybody has a really high level role, so you can do anything you want when you get into UAT, and that'll probably stick for a while. But the next UAT session we have, it'll be important for everybody to do this before we get into that next UAT session, because then you're going to be like, oh, I didn't do this. Now I can
Yeah, because
get
I'm
in it.
thinking that I was thinking like, well, I have access.
Yeah, thank you.
Is it, no,
And
sorry, is, so I just got an email, from info@Illinois workNet. It just says new IWDST registrant to review. It says, it's addressed to me and my colleague Thaddeus, who's also on our team, who is doing the sessions with me. And it says, you have a new user wanting to access IWDST. Please go into the application and approve them from the security menu. Is that, I mean, obviously that's an auto-generated email, but is there anything I'm supposed to do, or?
no.
Oh, okay, I didn't think so. I was
Giving
like Al was saying, I'm like, man, I must have, do I have superpower roles here? The
you
system.
will though. Um, you
So
will though. Like if you're an LW administrator, when somebody new requests like to
Yeah,
join
we're
the
LSA.
LWA, you're gonna
Yeah.
get an email SSO. So Toriana and Omar, I have approved. Let me see if you're still hanging out here. Yeah, so make sure that I can get Toriana in.
Yeah, I mean, mine was the same. I tried to refresh. I tried to go back in then and start over, but it came up with the same gray box, what you have up there on the screen with the data share agreement and everything.
Okay. Adding you folks. But yeah, I'm seeing you on my side. I can make sure that you have access, but as long as you got into that registered box, you're good. We'll
oh,
get you.
give me a helping hand here, because I'm in Illinois partner, but it says I help. But where would I go for you to see me?
Oh, if you
'Cause-
get through this gray box, I can see it on my
See
side.
that gray box, I'm not seeing that because when I go in, it's not showing giving me another option. It goes
What do you
straight
see?
to Illinois partner, show me my dashboard, my work, add section, notification, got
Oh,
WP login, add section.
look all the way on the bottom. You should see an IWDS box on the right hand side. In the right hand with all the little boxes, you should see a DCO IWDS.
No, I don't see that in mine.
You don't see that on yours?
No.
Okay. Robert, I can work with you on the side. I'll set up a meeting with you, okay? We'll do
Okay.
it together.
All right. That sounds good.
Okay.
Cassie, you said me either. Were you able to get in? I know you were able to get in the other day when we connected.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure I'm in the right site because I think I'm in where we were doing this testing, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
If that's where you're at, you're good.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Great. I'm seeing more of that. Okay. I just added a whole bunch of you folks. Um, Brianna and Omar, I got you approved. approved. I'm approving Chris and Allison now. I just approved a great big pile of folks. And I'll give everyone a couple more minutes and we'll, but if you can't get to the submitted registration page, I'm gonna put a thing here, just like it, and I will set up a meeting to reach out to you and we'll do it together on screen share. So if you haven't gotten to it yet, and Crystal and Omar, I will put you on my list to reach out to you. And if you haven't been able to, you see my comment in chat, like it there, and then I will reach out to you and make sure that we can get everybody in this week. Cool. I have a couple of people who liked it, and I will continue to look here and approve folks as I see them come in. With that, we'll send out these documents if you haven't had a chance to do it so that you can try it for yourself. And then feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or if we need to get together to work through some things. With that, I'm going to pass it off. I believe, Olivia, you're up next.
Yes, I am. Let me get my screen shared. All right, everybody. So today we are going to be taking a look at some assessments. Don't want to do that. We are currently working on building what we're calling the Getting Started assessment. This will be the first assessment that we do for adults and dislocated workers after we have completed eligibility certification so that we can learn what we need to learn, help build a career plan, and provide service. For youth, we know this could be done before or after eligibility certification. And these assessments are going to be dynamic. So we have all the questions on the screen. You're not always going to see all the questions. Most of them are dependent upon other things being answered or flagged. So I want to show you real quick. So within the pre-screening, we're asking some getting to know you better questions. A lot of these are going to feed through and help inform what we're displaying and asking on the Getting Started assessment. This Getting Started assessment is going to replace the initial and some of the comprehensive questions, and it's going to capture some required Pearl data that we are required federally to report. We're also going to be building out an interest profiler and work history that's going to contain some of the comprehensive questions as well. And this Getting Started assessment is going to be career planner facing, meaning the career planner is the one who's going to sit down and do it with the customer. But we're going to pull out some of the skills and work history pieces and make those customer facing so that customers can do these ahead of time, and it will pre-populate into the customer's profile and populate these assessments to kind of streamline some of that data gathering. So this assessment is working to replace the initial and comprehensive assessments done. and giving you a space to do that in the system. We are also going to have an education/training assessment. So whenever a customer is going into education or training, there will be an additional assessment they need to do before they can start that. That gets a lot of the training things that we need to assess on and know before training can start. We are not looking at this one today. We are just looking at the getting started assessment. And then we'll also have a space where you can just manually add other assessments, such as your TABE, your CASAS, your other assessments you might be doing to add those results into the system. Do you guys have any questions on that before we get started looking at this assessment? All right, my plan for today is to walk through these pages with you at a high level and kind of go over the concept of these assessments. And then after the fact, I'm going to be sending out, well, Kelly will be sending out some information where you guys will have access to come in and look at this Miro board. You're also going to get access to a copy of our flag mapping document. So the Miro board is just a visual. So we might have like drop downs where you can't see all the answer options. This flag mapping document has all of the questions and then the answer options. So we have them all listed in here. You can see all the possible answer options and then any business logic. So like this question, we're going to only ask adults and dislocated workers. If they say yes, they are currently in school. The reason we're not asking youth is because we've already asked youth at time of application. And you'll have to bear with me today. If I randomly just stop talking, it's probably because I've muted and I'm having a bit of a coughing fit. So working through that. So you're going to get access to this and this flag mapping document. Oops. Here that has all the question and answers and the business logic, and it tells you what pages they're on. And then we're also going to be providing you guys access to a getting started notebook. So you'll come in and you'll be able to, using those two resources, kind of go through all the questions and answer options that we're asking and the specific business logic that dictates when we would ask that question. And you guys can provide feedback on all the pages. These are all the pages of the assessment. If you think a question should be changed, or maybe it's not, like you don't understand why we're asking this and want to better understand that, or if there's questions you think should be added, you guys can provide feedback on all of that here. And then we'll take this back to the state next week. On Wednesday morning, we're going to be reviewing the assessments with them again and going through all the feedback that you guys provide. Any questions on that before we actually jump in and start looking at the Miro board? All right, and I'm going to put a link to the Miro board in the chat for you guys. So that you can, I'm going to make you guys commenters. So that you guys can, come on, copy. Oh, it's not letting me paste it over here. Give me 1 second. There. Well, it looks like my keyboard battery's died, and that's why. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay. So there's the link in the chat. If you guys want to jump in the Miro board and kind of walk through this with me, you can. I do have some state folks in here providing feedback as well. They're adding sticky notes on some direction that they're wanting to see some of this go. This is definitely not the final draft. This is where we're at to get feedback to kind of further refine this to get it to a place we need it to be for go live. So our first page here is you would click in to start the getting started assessment. The way we're going to have these pages set up is we will require that in order to complete the full assessment, there will be like required questions that have to be done, but you will be able to kind of jump around these pages and questions based on the conversation you're having with the customer. So if you're talking about goals and then transportation stuff comes up, you start talking about that, you can jump to the transportation page. We're not going to make you walk through this each page like specifically in this order. And we'll highlight, we're going to use like little icons. So like if you go to submit and they're not all done, we'll put like red circles with X's on the pages that are missing things you need to like fully have that assessment complete. So this first page is our goals. And so each of these sections has a gray box at the top that will say something like, we've pulled in some information you shared earlier to help guide this part of the conversation. So again, career planners are completing this assessment with the customer. So it's going and pulling information from the pre-screening for the career planners to be able to view related information we've already captured related to goals. So it's going to pull in the pre-screening. They have a space where they can identify their various goals, whether they're training related. Pull this up here. It is, they identify their goals. So for training in new careers, they can pick from this set of goals. For find a job, they have goals. So it's going to show which ones they have picked and highlight them here. And then has a specific career goal been identified? It's pulling questions from the pre-screening. We ask that question. It's going to tell you what they picked. They could be, I'm exploring several different career paths, or I have a career goal in mind and I know the occupation I want. For our top 3 questions, if they pick these, then we have sub questions where they would go in and tell us what their top 3 occupations are, or their top 3 fields. And we're going to add one for them to tell us their top 3 training choices. So again, we're displaying all that information here, so it is readily available to the career planner as they're having conversations about the goal. And then under this gray box are the assessment questions. So we have some questions here. Tell me what interests you about your goal. If you could do things all over again, would you choose the same path for yourself? What would you change? So we're working on embedding some of the Jody Sue Kelly training, the customer-centered training questions into this assessment. I will note that this first pass of the assessment is getting more at the initial. We do have some of the comprehensive questions, but I currently have a homework assignment out to the state. They are defining additional comprehensive assessment questions from the Jody Sue Kelly training and other best practice resources and assessments we've gathered to add into this. So next Thursday, I'm going to be meeting with you guys again to take another look at more of those comprehensive assessments that we want to include on some of these pages as well. So just know that's coming right now. We're getting a lot of these questions are more looking at initial where we're gathering specific data points. And then at the bottom of almost all of the assessment pages, we have this question, what else would you like to share about? And this one says your goals, because that's the page we're on. And then like on all the other pages, like what else would you like to share about your education history? What else would you like to share about your employment history? This is a way for career planners to capture anything else that we might not directly be asking that is relevant to the goals or education that the customer brings up or wants to share. We can capture that here as well. And then this last one is career planner notes or observations. So this is a space where a career planner can make any of their own notes or observations that they're making during the time that they're doing this assessment. They can come back in and update this as needed. Any questions so far? Okay. And these are live mock-ups. So I have a lot of people in here working. So sometimes things get moved around a little bit. So don't worry too much about that. Obviously, in the system, it's not going to look that way. People won't be able to move things around. It'll all look good. But it helps us kind of be able to update things on the fly with these all being editable elements. So this next page is education history. So again, we're pulling in information relevant from pre-screening and application regarding education. And for youth, these 2 items right here are only youth specific. So they would show for youth, they wouldn't show for adult or dislocated workers. Then for adult dislocated workers, we're asking those questions because we want to know it, but it wasn't relevant to eligibility, like determining eligibility. So we weren't asking it on application. Now we're asking it at the getting started assessment. Some things I want to point out is we have some yellow sticky notes. These yellow sticky notes are the business logic. So I said not all these questions are going to be asked. So we're not going to ask everybody, do you have a 504 plan? We really are working to try to get away from that text and make it more plain language text and not a 504 plan. But say like, have you ever received extra support in school, like more time on tests, help with reading, or other changes that make learning easier? This is commonly referred to as a 504 plan. We're looking to try to fix these questions to be a little more customer centered that way. But we are only going to ask someone in school. Oh, I'm sorry. I think this got. We're going to only ask someone who is in school, secondary or post-secondary, with a disability flag. So if they're not in school and they don't have a disability flag, we're not going to ask them because they wouldn't have a 504 plan. So these are our disability specific questions. There's a lot of those that we're only asking if they have the disability flag. A lot of these are Pearl requirements, so we have to report them federally. So that's what these green sticky notes are. They're just relating back to the so what of why are we asking these. It's to be able to do this. And then if they say yes to this question, to the 504 plan question, then we would ask, like, can you share us more about the support you received as part of your 504 plan? And then again, we have some IEP questions. They're Pearl related. This logic here, they would never get both questions. So if they have a disability flag and they are currently in school, we're going to ask it, do you currently? If they have a disability flag and it's someone who is who has been through secondary school, but not currently in school, we would ask, have you ever? So just make sure you're kind of looking at these yellow sticky notes because we're not going to ask everybody all of these questions just because they have a disability flag. We're looking at other things too to try to determine the most accurate question to ask the customer based on information we already know on them. So this whole section is if somebody has a disability flag, we would ask one or more of these depending on other factors. And then we get down here and we have the add up to your most recent 5 credentials earned, and they would click this add credential button. And if you follow this arrow down, then we have the credential modal that would open up so they could add their credential. Once they add those credentials, it's going to populate this table here. And then we have some additional questions on other programs they may have participated in or may currently be participating in. And we wanted to get some of your feedback on these questions. We're going to run these past SMEs that serve these programs. So we have a couple of folks identified that we're going to run these past. What we're really trying to do here is we want to make sure these are written in a way that the customer would understand what we're asking for them. So, you know, when we're talking about it federally, it's just like the adult education program or Job Corps. But our customers might not know it as that. They might be referring to these programs as something differently or know it more by the services that they're receiving. So we're really looking for feedback here as you're going through and reviewing these on would this make sense to a customer? The way we're asking this, have you ever been enrolled as an adult education student? Through adult education, you could have received services to help with reading, writing, math, or learn English, to earn a high school diploma or recognized equivalent, move into education or job training, or find a job. So like, would that question and explanation be enough for somebody who had participated in adult ed to recognize that is what we are talking about and be able to accurately answer it? Some of the other questions, like over here, we know these might need to be explained, so we can do info bubble text. We might even just spell out the whole thing on there. So you might see text off to the side to further explain what some of these are asking to give more context when we're talking to the customer. And again, we're only going to ask this if they say yes, they have been enrolled in adult ed, then either in the past or currently, then we would ask it. Same thing down here for our other ones. So this is where we're asking the job corps question, there's this drop down right here. This is where the flag mapping document comes into play. We're using a drop down as the UI for that question. But if you come to the flag mapping document, you can see here are all the answer options that we would display. And again, we have this for a couple other of the programs as well. So just making sure those are written in a way somebody would be able to understand. And then our final two questions, what else would you like to share about education history, our career plan notes and observations? And then the next section is employment expectations. So one of the questions we had for you guys is we're pulling in relevant information we know about employment expectations based on what we have collected from pre-screening and application. One of our first questions, we're looking to say, what type of employment or positions are you interested in? Select all that apply. We weren't sure if this wording sounded better to a customer versus what kind of job setup sounds best for you right now. And this is where we're looking to try to identify if they're looking for full-time, part-time, temporary, seasonal, contract, apprenticeship, remote, or hybrid, or really they're open to any option. Do you guys think which one of these do you think the customer would better understand what we're trying to get at right here? And again, we're trying to write these at a, fifth to sixth, maybe seventh, eighth, if absolutely necessary to like, sometimes if we drop the reading level too low, it takes away from the actual meaning of what we're trying to get at. So in that case, sometimes we go up a little bit. But that's another thing we're trying to keep in mind with these is we're writing them at a reading level most people will be able to understand. What are your guys' thought on which of this kind of wording would be better for this question that you think the customer would understand?
Hi,
Roy, I see your comment.
hi.
Go ahead.
This is Monique L. Will 24. I think that the one that the what kind of job setup sounds best for you right now. I think that's more lay term and more inviting for a customer to engage and very clear.
Okay. Yeah, it does depend on the individual. Unfortunately, there's no one size fits all on some of these. So Mike says maybe not say right now because we're thinking like long term. So we could say, what kind of job setup are you interested in? What do we think about that? You guys can give me thumbs up if you're good with that, or if you think, hey, no, type in the chat what you think you might recommend. And then I'll take this back. We are not going to make the final decision today. But it'll give us kind of a direction to go in. Perfect. I see thumbs up. Yes, that sounds good. Good combination of both. Okay. All right.
Olivia, it's Mark. Just from a long-term perspective, I think we're doing great. I really appreciate all the input from the local areas on all this. But, and I don't want to think too far forward, but at some point, we're going to put these out. We're going to think they all sound great, but somehow we have to ensure that career planners have a mechanism to provide continuing feedback. So maybe we agree on a question or questions and the language we use for them. But as you sit down with the participant and you ask that question, like for me, I'm just using this example. I don't know what setup means versus, oh, job conditions. I see what you mean by that. So when we get feedback like that from the participant that maybe the language doesn't really work, what are you building in a possibility where career planners can quickly give you that kind of feedback to say, hey, a couple times this week I've had someone question what this means. And so maybe we need to reconsider the question, things of that nature. Have you thought that far in advance?
Yeah, we have considered that. We're gonna have like a built-in help desk submission to the portal where when they're getting that kind of stuff, we can flag it as like we can look at having like continuous improvement submissions for them to easily be able within the portal to click a link to submit for continue like a continuous improvement ticket so that we can track that and then work with the group at large to say, yes, that's something we want to do and move forward with making those updates in the future. It's a great point. Um, the other question we had for you guys too was kind of around the desired salary. So we wanted to bring some of these to you guys because we know you guys work with customers and you're going to have a better understanding of how they might interpret and answer these. So our initial question is like, what is your desired salary? And then we were kind of concerned again, like kind of Mark mentioned, it's not like the previous one, it's not just right now, it's like long term. And like, what is your desired salary? We don't want people saying, I want to make $1 million. So we didn't know if that would be something that, yeah, most of the customers are going to understand like the desired salary within a reasonable way, or if we need to say something like, what do you need to earn each month to cover your bills and have a little left over, or like what salary do you need to earn to cover your bills and have a little left over, and then let them pick, you know, if it's hourly, monthly, yearly, or other. How would you guys recommend the best way to like approach asking that kind of question?
Well, I would
If you guys,
think, oh, I would think if the career specialist is sitting with them, you got to look at their history, what they have been receiving as salary. If you got somebody who just coming in and had no job, no experience, they can want a big salary. So you got to have some kind of dividing table of like a history to look at to see what their qualifications, see their work history, see their education history, to see if that salary is just. So that's a very tough question, but it also is all dependent on your case manager asking the proper question to the customer, I would think.
and what do you think that proper question would be?
Hi, Olivia. Just
I
leave it
w-
at salary. Because I
Like,
think that
what's your
if,
desired salary?
yeah, because if you put on there, how much do I need to earn each month to cover bills? That would be to me, that's a loaded question because they may throw out, okay, well, I need to make, 6 figures in a year or whatever the
Yep,
case may be.
I agree. I agree. I was just going to say, well, we need to make the wording simple enough where, hey,
Hmm.
salary desire, well, we all desire a higher salary, let's face it, in on this plural here. So we
Right.
don't want to use desire. That's you asking for trouble.
Well,
Yeah, it's one of those, you could leave it either way too. I could see it going either way because some people, uh, we get some people sometimes, on the opposite end, especially young adults, where they actually kind of lowball, like, oh, I probably this, and then we do, which I'm sure a lot, if not all LOEs do this, but we do like an income and expense worksheet because there's, like, do you need, if you're a laid off worker or someone with a lot of experience, someone working in the workforce for a while, what do you need to regain your self-sufficiency? And some people just, they think they're at a level of self-sufficiency, but they're struggling, they're underemployed, and they're not even at self-sufficiency. So
Hmm.
it's kind of a, it could go, you could leave it this way too. It's one of those, like, either way, I have a feeling, it's going to come down to, like, we'll have to do a deeper dive once you have the intake, and the assessment with that person. Because some people, when they do the income expense sheet, they're like, oh wow, I guess, like they a certain occupation might be appealing, and they think like, oh, this training program could be good, and I have these aptitudes for it, and that's great. But it's like, then they realize, like, oh, the realism of the, realistically, what's the starting, wage, and is that going to be enough to help you meet, your self-sufficiency? So sometimes people will do that income expense thing and then realize, oh, maybe I need to actually make more. So I mean, the way you have it, I think, it's okay. It's one of those, like, we could change it, but no matter how you slice it, it's probably one of those things that it's good just to get their, it's good to kind of get their idea. Like when this, when you get this request for an intake or for somebody that, filling out this survey, a customer that wants to seek our services or resources to kind of get an idea. It is good to have that up front to say like, well, what is this person, what do they want to make? And then that kind of gives, that could be good because it kind of gives us a head start, the career planner, when they do start communicating with the person. As far as, getting an idea of like, okay, realistically, then these are the kinds of occupations, that are going to pay what, that kind of match your work history, your interests, your aptitudes, and that are going to pay what you need to make. So, I think it's one of those, it's tricky. Yeah. I don't think, like I said, however you do it, it's, we got to remember, like, I think like Mark said, this is just kind of a starting point, a talking point. It's not the end all. This isn't like the assessment part of it. That's, you'll have to obviously go deeper, and when you probe deep, you explore this further when you actually do the assessment with someone.
So talk to me a little bit more. So, because we do want this to work as the assessment. So what more will you need to like be exploring with them on this? So what's your desired salary? And then like what Robert was saying, looking at education and history, and is that feasible?
This is fine.
Yeah, I think it works because I don't know if it'll be changed, but right now the assessment summary that the career planners are expected to fill out, that's in that early part of the application. This question kind of goes in line with some of the details that they're expecting for the career planners to complete in that assessment summary and the IEP. There are questions on the IEP, well, for ours, to kind of help explore that question a little more in the IEP. But I think the way it stands now, that it's appropriate.
Okay. So I'm seeing a lot of like, we should just keep it what it's at here. We could look at doing something like this, but if you guys think just keeping it at desired salary is where we need to be at now, we can do that.
I'm open to anything that will make it easy for the career advisor. I hear Rory talking, but we don't want to go through all of what you were talking about, where we're trying to make this system easy, quick, and fast. Because when they first entered IWDS back in the days, it was for less paperwork, less communication to get the person eligible for the training programs, for service and whatnot. What is your desired salary? Okay, let's keep in mind that are we going to have something to say now? This might be your desired salary, but guess what? We ain't guaranteeing it. And I think sometimes you're going to have to be upfront and personal with the customer. I know I'm one to tell them like it is. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything with a customer. I'm going to let them know. If you're expecting this salary, I don't know if we can help you. But you got to keep it in realm of what is best for the customer, and I get that. So just my little feedback on this whole thing.
I totally agree with Robert. This is Nicole from Chicago. I totally agree with him.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, and just to clarify, I wasn't saying to do an income expense worksheet to incorporate that into this screening tool. Sorry about that if it sounded like I was saying kind of the opposite. So I'm with you, like leave it the way it is here, but at some point, through the exploration of like the jobs and the training programs and the jobs, if they need training, you may have to come back to this if their expectations turned out to be not realistic or not aligned with the LMI, as Ashante mentioned in the chat. So that's what I meant. Like, not to put that in this tool. I just meant like sometimes you do have to, you might end up having to come back and doing more detail than what you would need to do in this tool. But I like this, and I kind of like the beginning, not the to comfortably support yourself in your household. I know you guys, it sounds like, maybe not that language, but the first part of that, like to help us understand your needs, like that wording is good, and what is your desired salary maybe after that. But that's kind of helpful language. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to like incorporate all that detailed stuff into the tool. I was saying kind of the opposite, that like you don't have to put that much detail in the tool, because you're going to probably, with some people, be coming back and having a dialogue, conversation and career planning, putting the planning in career planner with them later on.
Again, in this section, we're still working. We might want to ask some more open-ended questions. And if you think there might be some open-ended questions like in here that based on like if they answer this, so they say $1 million a year, then like we can look at like if it's above a certain amount at a certain like thing, like is there another open-ended question we need to ask or prompt we need to say? We can look at including those kind of things in too if you want to provide those during your review. Would you provide feedback? Our next page is employment history. So this is where we're collecting employment history, and we want to look at providing a way for customers to do this ahead of time to like provide this part of it, their like previous jobs. So we're looking at doing that again. We can't always like, say for sure the customer will do it. They might come to their appointment and say, I didn't do it. So we might need to collect it here, but we're looking to collect their work history. And we're going to give some text, like you don't need to list every job, just the ones that are the most recent or most related to the kind of work you're looking for. And then we have some different text for unemployed because they might have been unemployed for a long time. So and then if they had answered previously, one of the things we're going to ask is current employment status on pre-screening. If they said they never had a job before, we're not even going to worry about asking for work history because we know they've never had a job before. And then we're going to ask some additional questions. Like if we see they've had more than 3 jobs within 1 year, we're going to ask like, hey, we see you've had a few different jobs recently. Can you tell us what was going on that led to those changes in jobs? And then we're going to ask this question for someone who says, I have not worked before, or I just started to build work experience. Then we would ask this question. We wouldn't ask it for everybody, but this would give us a way to kind of collect some information that we could maybe use to help them build a resume or things like that. And then this question is, again, very specific to meeting certain requirements. So if somebody has a dislocated worker who on their dislocation job marks that they are eligible for UI but didn't apply, you can ask if they would like to receive information. Essentially, it's going to trigger a referral so that they can get help applying for UI. And then again, on this page, we have a whole chunk of disability questions. With these, we would like to identify an SME who could help us look at these disability questions and make sure we're writing them in a way customers will understand. If you guys have any recommendations, definitely put them in your feedback. And then you guys are going to skip 5. This is the skills page. This is still under review. We're looking at a couple of tools that we could use to help streamline this. So skip that one for now. And then we're going into the health page. So these next couple of pages are similar to our pre-screening page on getting to know you better. We have questions on job preferences, work experience, health needs, transportation, childcare, legal needs, and money needs. These are building off of that. So we're pulling in things we know. So if they say that they have some kind of health need, whether it's a disability or some other kind of health need, we have additional questions that we will ask. And they're very dependent on what we already know. If they didn't say anything, we would have some kind of text here, like based on the information you shared earlier, we have not identified any health needs. If you identify the customer has any health, disability, or accommodation needs, you can turn this page on and you could turn it on and it would ask you the pre-screening questions, pull them in so you can figure out what kind of health need, and then it would determine the subset questions that would be asked and display this page for you. So not every time is everybody going to have to answer these if they flag they don't have any health needs. we don't have to go through it. If they don't have any childcare, dependent care needs, they're not going to have to go through it. But you will have on this page, you will know that and be able to turn it on in case during conversation you realize, oh, they did not want to disclose that on the application, that they have a child or something like that, but they're ready to disclose it now. Then you can turn it on and answer the appropriate questions. Again, when you're looking through this, if you see this little circle that says RE, it says referral. It just, I made it small so we can flip it over tie it to the sticky note. So these questions are essentially trying to trigger referrals. If they're selected yes, we're going to recommend a referral on our service recommendation page that we're building. These ones are disability ones again too. These ones are kind of scattered throughout. There's a lot of pro requirements on some disability stuff, and we put them so they are aligned with the most applicable pages. Based on my mapping, if we think, hey, this actually kind of aligns somewhere else better, we can move them. Then we go into transportation. Everybody will answer transportation. We're asking on the pre-screen, how are they going to get to school or work? And then here we're asking if they have a valid driver's license. And based on that, we might ask some additional follow-up questions based on what they selected. We have some, I also want to note, so in case you're like, okay, well, how will you get to work? Like, what are the options? I have in the boxes up here on the pre-screening getting to know you better page, the transportation section, how you get to school or work, check all that fit your situation, and here are the answer options. So I tried to put these pre-screening getting to know you better page guys here so you could easily see like what the answer options could be. They're referenced a lot in these like these sticky notes, like when select public transportation on getting to know you better page, then this question would display. So that just is kind of like a reference point to that. And then these yellow boxes are anytime the page could potentially be like, oh, somebody doesn't answer anything at all. We would have like the option to flip it on or off if we came in and it was off. So this is the childcare one. You could see I put brackets here. So again, they're not going to get all of these. It's dependent on how they answer. They would get one of these three potentially, depending on how they answered any kind of childcare needs. If they have any dependents like that are not children that they're taking care of, they would get this to learn more about the dependents they're caring for. And then if they have other, then we would ask them to tell us more specifically about their other situation. So they could have like other and dependent and one of these three, depending on how they answer. But just know the reminder, these yellow things are really important because everybody's not going to get all of these. Some people might not get any if they don't have any children or dependent care needs. And then we go to legal. So again, this is one that if we haven't flagged any legal needs, it would be off, but they could turn it on. And then we have a couple of questions here. Then we have some money management or money basic needs. We're really struggling with the best thing to call this. We don't want to call it just money. It's not really income. We're pulling in information about money situations from pre-screening, if they flagged any public assistance on intake or application, if they flagged any other income related items, such as being homeless or a runaway or living in a high poverty area, we would make that apparent. And then if they did the family income calculator, we'd pull in those results. And then we're asking questions about, do they have a checking or savings? Do they have any money or credit concerns? And then some questions like if they're worried about paying for housing in the next 6 months. If they say yes, do they want a referral for that? Would they like information about clothing, housing support? This is only if they're homeless or runaway. This one would be only, this one you don't get if you're homeless or runaway because you wouldn't have a home. But if you are worried about paying, like at risk of becoming homeless, then you get this one. This one is homeless. So these kinds of questions are like various money related questions or financial questions. If you guys have any recommendations The budgeting was one we were looking at. Budgeting might work. Household finances kind of gets at a little higher reading level
Yeah, I was just
than what
looking
we
at
were
the,
going at.
yeah, as soon as I typed that, I thought like, wow, that's actually what they're trying to get away from is that kind of language. Sorry. But that just kind of, that was the first thing that popped into my head.
Yeah, budgeting might work. Any other thoughts on some name ideas for this one that might resonate with your customers for this kind of topics?
I mean, money management isn't bad. Again, some might think money management is like stocks and investments, some higher level customers, but I think from just a standard term, I mean that's in the running, I mean money management might be at a good, at that level of like not too high uh high a level, or language wise wording, reading level, and it's not too low like money basics, it's or where they would get maybe the wrong impression.
Mhm.
So that could work.
Any other thoughts? And folks can definitely type in the chat too. And then during your feedback as you're looking at this, if anything comes to you, you can provide it there as well. Okay. And then we just have two more pages real quick to walk through. We have veterans information. So again, this is if someone says they're in the veteran or say they're a veteran, we're going to ask more specific question about that veteran status. If they are not a veteran, we still have, are you related? Are you related to someone who's serving in the military? And this one would get at the military spouse. We're expanding it a little bit because we have some other federal requirements. We're looking at reporting in addition to that. But most of these are only showing if it's yes to veteran. And then the last one is additional demographics. So there's some additional questions that we have to ask. And they are on this page. We are looking, we have some SMEs identified for this one that kind of is looking at some concurrent program stuff. These are serving for both being all the ones where we're asking like, hey, did you ever participate in this program, whether it's adult ed, Job Corps, there's a whole bunch of them. We're gonna ask like, I have in the past, I currently am, no, I haven't, or I don't know. And we can feed that through for if they currently are to, we're going to be building like a concurrent program space where we can maintain that in real time, so that we can kind of pass that through. So we're also capturing not only the federally reporting information, but any concurrent programs that we're needing to track. And some of these are written, just a little context of why they're written the way they are. And we may look at changing this, but it's this way for now. When we have to report federally, sometimes we're reporting were they ever in this program, yes or no. And sometimes we're reporting were they ever in this program, yes, they received enrolling, like yes, they were like kind of enrolled in the service, or they were a reportable individual, or no. So the answer options are a little different because sometimes the way we report for these is either like yes, no, or yes, reportable individual, or no. So we ask the question a little differently to try to get at some of that. But again, we're still kind of really working through a lot of the verbiage for these kinds of ones with the designated SMEs from the various other programs. So these could change quite a bit. But if you have any feedback on better ways to word these that you think your customers would understand, definitely open to getting that feedback too. So I'd like to pause right here and use our last 10 minutes to see, does anybody have any questions or want some clarifying information on what we've looked at so you feel more confident going into the homework assignment to get this reviewed?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking about the whole picture and envisioning, like currently, there are a lot of the questions that are in the actual application on IWDS that are being asked in this getting started assessment that you've laid out in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So if this is a getting started assessment that a person can access on them, by themselves, even without talking to you, or however it's going to be, whether it's them doing it or us doing it with them or whatever, anything that is put in here, I'm assuming it's then going to auto-populate whatever the actual application is, so that you're not asking them the same questions over again.
So we remove these from the application. They're no
Okay.
longer going to be in the application.
Okay. That was the other part that I was going to ask, is does
Yeah.
that mean that the application itself is going to look a lot different than what it currently is?
Yeah, we did some homework on the application, and you guys can look at that too. I'll give you a copy of this, but this has all the application questions we're asking. I still am flushing out some of the dislocated worker ones. I have these 6 more to fill out. But this is the new application questions on these pages, and they're written the same, kind of a very similar way, where we, can see the application a customer will be able to answer on their own, but there will be some questions that only a career planner can ask, and that's during their like application review prior to eligibility certification. But a lot of what was in the IWDS application, most of the questions you see we've removed from the application are going to be these Pearl ones, and we've put in the pre-screening, or I'm sorry, in the getting started assessment.
Right.
The reason they were asked in the application had nothing to do with eligibility. It's just that the state's on the hook to report these federally. So they had to ask them in the application, even though it had nothing to do with the customer actually being able to like get into the program.
Uh-huh.
So we stripped all of those out. So the application is focusing on like, what do we need to know to make you eligible to like serve you? And then once we get through that, we've moved these, like we're still on the hook to report them. We've moved them to the getting started assessment. So you can work through these as you need to like build the career plan, and then be able to provide any basic services they might need to just even be able to get back here to help answer all these questions and do all this stuff and get started in the program. So those on the back end, we will like lock these similar to the application, because it's all on the reporting. It's at time of entry. So when you finish the initial getting started application, we will map on the back end, like, okay, here's all the stuff that we're reporting federally for at time of program entry, like the application, as you guys know it in IWDS. And then you guys will be able to like do these iteratively. So if you need to do another one of these pieces of this assessment later, you can redo it. It's not going to replace old data. You're just like reassessing on a specific area, and we'll create like a new iteration or version of that assessment for you to collect the new information on. Does that answer your question, Crystal?
Well, kind of. I'm just thinking about like the sequencing of how it was all going to work, particularly if a person comes, I mean, because right now, we've got we are all used to the situation where you have the application, which is asking certain questions on IWDS that you have to have in order to get to certification and eligibility. And everybody, as you're getting to that point of the application, you're doing all these different pieces that everybody's using something different, or, whatever, to assess the person, to see what their needs are, that feeds into the application. But if this is a getting started piece for a person who can just maybe get an email that they link to it, or whatever, what's the carrot for somebody filling it out when it's so extensive, if that at some point they're not going to move forward with WIOA?
So the career planners will have to fill this out with the customers for now. We will look at making this more customer facing in the future. So what's the carrot for them filling this out if they're not gonna move forward with WIOA?
Yeah. You know, or where does it fall in the sequencing as far as with the application? Because right now it's
Yeah.
set up that, you know, you're doing all the assessment and everything with the point of getting them to the application and filling that out and certifying them and making them eligible.
Right.
So the sequence is we're gonna do pre-screen, potentially eligible, they move forward to the application, complete that, and then they would meet with the career planner to do eligibility certification, verify they're eligible. Great, you're eligible for the program. We're going to be able to get you services. We just need to do this getting started assessment with you to determine the best career plan to provide the services you need.
So
And
the
then,
assessment is coming after the certification and the eligibility part?
Yes,
yes.
it's going to be similar to your initial and hopefully comprehensive assessment piece. This is really going to be your assessment piece.
Oh, okay. And that's, well, I wish we could have, there was a rewind button and then you might strike a lot of my comments and stuff. Cause
Yeah.
I was, and yeah, okay. No, and you probably did say that. And I'm sorry. I got caught up in trying to follow along with everything. I might have missed it, but I was kind of like, 'cause I was thinking that this was like, you know, when they did like a pre-screen, like they would fill this out
Oh.
before or while they're waiting to be contacted by their one-stop center or by a career planner, you know, for into I think they're doing a lot of this like up front. So that's why I was saying, oh, are they going to know what this means, that means? So okay, I'm sorry, guys.
No, that's all right. And I want to make sure everybody's clear. Definitely going into the homework. This is going to replace the initial. And right now we just have some of the comprehensive. We want to include more so it can fully replace the initial and comprehensive assessments you guys are doing. In addition to capturing some of the participant Pearl required data, because we've removed a lot of that from the application. So it is going to go into this assessment. So like Crystal said, like some of these questions are on your current IWDS application. They're not going to be on the 2.0 application. They're going to live in this assessment instead.
Okay, so this tool that you're walking us through, this will sort of replace the existing assessment
Nice.
screens where we have like assessment narratives and all those, and some of those
Yes.
are redundant in the current
Yes.
IWS system. However, the
Yes.
difference being from the old system as well is that the customer gets to kind of participate in this process a little bit more in terms of like they'll be able to fill a lot these questions out and give their own responses like electronically, and then you know the
Well,
career planners
no,
can
No.
assessment's career planner facing. So
Mhm.
the career planner will do this with the customer.
Oh, okay.
Or-
So none of this is going to be something that like we send to, or they get like, hey, you know, fill these are the questions then are like sort of prompts that the career planner is going to ask the customer.
Yes.
Oh,
And we're
okay.
going to make like an interest profiler and work history assessment where we can collect that stuff from, like the customer can do that. So those two pieces, like some kind of skills and interests that would help populate this one. And then when you're collecting work history, we want to allow the customer to give them a space to do that like before they meet with the career planner. So this piece might be pre-populated, but everything else the career planner is asking. And then we're just pulling these gray boxes from pre-screen and app data to be like, hey, career planner, here's some relevant information that we already know related to employment history.
Got it. Okay.
Here's some
Apologies
questions you
again.
can ask.
Okay.
Oh,
Apologies
no
again. Because I
apologies
thought
needed.
again, I now I get more of what is going to be facilitated by the career planner and not I was thinking more of this was going to be um the customer doing it on their own and ahead of time or something, and that's why I was thinking about the language and stuff. So okay, thanks for clarifying that.
Any other questions or things that you guys want to make sure you have clarified before you're going in?
I just think, I mean, I'm just gonna say it. It just seems a little weird to me to be doing the assessment after you've determined somebody eligible when the assessment part is how you decide whether or not they're even appropriate for services with WIOA.
And that is one of the reasons why we don't, a lot of people tend to put the what's considered the service of initial assessment before determining eligibility. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. Doing the initial assessment, the initial intake, or, the part where you're asking the questions about the skills and everything else is a staff assisted basic career service, and it needs to be logged that way. So we're going to, by doing it this way, you're going, when the career planner works with the customer and gets this information in, the system is going to automatically log that you've done the initial assessment. So it's not like they've got to go in and put the service in like they used to in the current system. The system's going to know by doing this process, you've already done this initial assessment. But it's technically a staff assisted career service, and so it has to be done after eligibility determination.
Any other thoughts or questions on that, Crystal?
No, I mean, I think
Okay.
that's fine. It's just that's a big shift from, I think, probably how everybody has been. Because we all have known for a long time that the way that IWDS was driving things along, that you were having to do that staff assisted assessment stuff in order to determine what was best for that person, and it was forcing you to do it before you got to eligibility. So I mean, I don't have a problem with that. It's just that that's a
Big
huge
shift.
in how you think about things, and I just don't want the participant themselves to get lost in that, because you want to make sure at the end of the day that you are serving the needs of that person. And if when you're or like, and where are you on the hook for them performance wise and all of that stuff, if you've already got them eligible and you certified them and everything, and then you're doing the assessment and find out, oh, they've got this whole list of other issues that they need, they're more appropriately referred elsewhere. What about that part of it? Like that's where my mind goes in the timing of things.
Well,
Yeah.
obviously, we're going to link in the referral part so that you can do that and it's logged here, and you should still be able to provide those basic career services and work with that other provider to get that individual employed. Whether if it's you're putting them through the adult education program first, and then you're working with them while they're in the adult education program under Title II, and then they come back to you for you to provide them trading services. So hopefully this will facilitate that with having the referral part in there too.
Yeah, and Kelly T, could you note that the shift of the assessment just based on where it's at in current IWDS is going to be a big shift for the field, and that'll be something we want to make sure we provide robust training around.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely vital for sure.
Definitely. And we've talked about too, like, because these are enrolling services, excuse me, for adults and dislocated workers, by simply starting and answering like 3 questions, like at what point have you answered enough of the assessment that it's considered a service and the system will like auto add that for us? So there might be, spaces when you're having that conversation where you realize that early, and it is not necessarily like making them like putting that enrolling service in.
I can see
For
that.
you,
Yeah, I can see that being a point that staff directors, like on my end too, are going to want to know as far as like, I mean, you hate to say it that way, although I totally understand what you're saying. Crystal said, it's I hate to say it that way. It's like, like like on the hook for that person performance wise, but at the same point, yeah, if it's not suitable, there's not much you can do to help them. At what point, at what juncture in the process of filling these screens out? I mean, it's great that the system will auto detect that you've already provided that service, so that step's taken, that will be taken. The system will take that step. So I think it takes that extra step. It sounds like out of how we currently do it in IWS. We have to enroll them in that. But so that the system will recognize that once you start doing this process of these screens, that you've been you've provided that initial assessment of employability, career needs and that. But yeah, what juncture in that process is, are they like enrolled, like a registrant?
Right.
I can see on my end, people might want clarification on that as well down the road.
Definitely. And that'll be something as part of all this assessment work we define, and we'll let you guys know. And we can probably, excuse me, even include something in the tool, like for like percentage complete, and at some point they've completed enough that we're adding the service or whatever. And we could like, have a little icon that shows once they're like, once they hit this mark, that's where we're gonna auto add that service. So it's more visible too, and not something they have to just memorize and know in the back of their heads, like when that happens. Any other questions or comments before we close out? I know we're running a little long, but this is a big piece we've been working on. And I want to make sure you guys have as much information as you need to get into this. Crystal, you say I have concerns about keeping it customer centered as opposed to just switching the order around to sure we have recorded a staff assisted assessment. Are you saying you would rather be able to add that versus the assessment automating that?
Well, I just want to keep the focus on if we're trying really to move everything customer centered in the language that we use, in the order that we do it, in the service that we're providing. I want to make sure that that's what's happening, as opposed to an assessment just because it's staff assisted and we all know that we've been doing them before without somebody being eligible. Like, that's not a good reason to shift the order of things. You know what I mean? That's the concern there, is just keeping that forward focus about having it be customer centered. And really, I'm thinking about the person who goes through, this is a very extensive thing, which is awesome. But extensive, like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it in a way that brings up what I'm trying to say about this. So it's a big shift. Maybe we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm gonna repeat back so I can make sure to like bring this concern back. I'm gonna just make sure I got it right. So we want to make it customer centered so that we're not just trying to check the box that we've completed the initial comprehensive assessment and auto adding those, but we're asking the questions in a way where if the customer has bigger barriers that we cannot help address, and without those being addressed, our services are not going to aid them, that we're flagging that and helping them get those correct services first.
Yes.
And then not wasting their time by asking all this stuff to be like, oh, well, now you're on the hook and now we're forced to try to serve you, but we can't really help you because
Yeah.
we need something else.
Yeah, because we
And-
don't want the customers to be really frustrated with us because we spent all this time and effort doing all this, and then
Mhm.
turn around and say, sorry.
Yes. Olivia, this goes back to our discussions that we were having on intake versus initial assessment. And intake does happen before you're on the hook for them. So, I don't know if we adjust this and talk about this as being an intake assessment. The assessment is always what throws us all when we use the term assessment. We always get wrapped up in that. So maybe this is quote unquote the intake, and then once the intake is 100% completed or whatever, then it becomes the initial assessment. That's something we can discuss, but I think that is what Crystal's trying to get to, is the fact that before a lot of local areas, you put these questions in their intake process. And that was before eligibility. So I think that is the concern.
Okay. Yeah, we can definitely look at that. And Laura, in our mapping too, we talked about initial comprehensive. We can even have intake questions we're asking at whatever point. Yeah, that's definitely something we can look at doing while also keeping this like, we want to make sure we're streamlining access to services for customers at the end of the day, whether there are services or other services they need to be successful, keeping that in the forefront of our mind. So I think I understand what you're saying, Crystal. I just wanted to make sure I was comprehending that. So, all right. If anybody has any questions during your review, please reach out to me at that time and let me know what your questions are or how I can assist you. Reach out to me or Kelly Trimble via email. It's always hard when at the end of the thing, I go in to look at comments and I see like I couldn't access this. Please let me know that in email. I'm not always checking that notebook until closer to when it's due. So we are here to support you in whatever ways we can. So definitely make sure you're leveraging us as resources if you get stuck or you have questions, so we can streamline getting this information back to you so we can keep this conversation going. We'll be meeting on this again next week to look at some additional, more open-ended questions that we also want to incorporate into this. Also taking a closer look at the feedback you guys provide. I'm going to have this due on the end of the day, Tuesday, October 28th. I'll be reviewing it with the state on the 29th and then you guys on the 30th. But Kelly Trimble will be getting an email out with all of the resources that you guys need to get this homework assignment done. Thank you guys for staying on a little late and for all of your time and feedback today. Looking forward to getting more of it throughout the week. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.